In a realm where two kingdoms stand divided by hate and betrayal, a forbidden love flickers like a candle in the dark. Elara, the spirited daughter of the Northern King, and Dorian, the brave son of the Southern Lord, are drawn together by fate. But with ancient rivalries threatening to tear them apart, will their love survive the storm? Elara gazed out from her tower, her heart heavy with longing. Each night the stars whispered Dorian's name, igniting a fire within her. Yet she knew their love, if discovered, would bring ruin to both kingdoms. Meanwhile, Dorian trained fiercely in the southern courtyard, his thoughts consumed by the beauty of Elara. He knew that their families would never accept their union, yet the bond they shared felt stronger than any sword. As tensions escalated between their kingdoms, a plan began to form. Elara and Dorian would meet at the ancient ruin, a sacred place untouched by their family's animosity. There, they could dream of a life together, away from prying eyes. On the eve of their secret meeting, the skies turned dark with foreboding clouds. Elara felt a shiver of dread, as if the fates themselves were warning her. Still, her heart raced with anticipation. As Elara approached the ruins, she spotted Dorian waiting, his silhouette framed by the lightning flashes. Their eyes locked, and for a moment, the world around them vanished. Nothing else mattered but their love. But their stolen moment was shattered as the clash of swords echoed nearby. The scouts of the Northern Kingdom had discovered Dorian's presence, igniting a fresh wave of conflict. Fear gripped Elara's heart. In a frantic bid to escape, they fled deeper into the ruins, but the shadows of their family's hatred loomed over them, threatening to engulf their fragile love. Would they find a way out? As the sounds of battle faded, they stumbled upon an ancient altar, inscribed with promises of loyalty and unity. It was here that they made their vow, to fight for their love, no matter the cost. Back in their respective castles, the news of the skirmish ignited anger in both kings. They vowed to erase the stain of betrayal and unite their forces against the perceived enemy. War was imminent. Elara and Dorian, unaware of the brewing storm, met in secret once again. Their hearts ached with the knowledge that every moment together could be their last. Yet the spark between them burned brighter than ever. As their love deepened, so did the challenges. A mysterious figure approached Dorian, warning him of a betrayal from within. Trust was fragile, and doubt began to creep into his heart. Elara, sensing Dorian's unease, sought counsel from her wise mother. With every word, her mother painted the picture of the impending war and the stakes of their love. Each revelation felt like a dagger to her heart. Determined to thwart the war, Elara devised a plan to unite their kingdoms through a peace treaty. She believed that love could conquer hatred, and she was willing to risk everything to prove it. Meanwhile, Dorian was faced with a choice when the cloaked figure revealed that Elara's life would be in danger if he did not betray her. Torn between love and loyalty, he felt the weight of the world upon his shoulders. The day of the treaty arrived, and Elara stood before both kingdoms, her heart pounding. She spoke of love and unity, hoping to bridge the divide. The air was thick with tension as she awaited their response. But just as she finished her plea, Dorian appeared, his own heart racing. He had come to support her, defying his father's orders. Together, they would face the storm, uniting their voices against hate. Yet, a voice of dissent rose among the crowd. A noble from the north accused Dorian of treachery, igniting a fierce argument that threatened to spiral into chaos. Love's fragile foundation began to crumble. As tempers flared, Elara felt the intensity rise. With one bold move, she stepped forward, calling for silence. She declared her love for Dorian, hoping it would quell the rising storm. The crowd fell silent, every eye on them. Dorian took Elara's hand, and together they faced the assembly with unwavering strength. Their love was a beacon in the darkness, challenging the hatred that surrounded them. But the silence was shattered by the sound of horns blaring in the distance. Battle was upon them. The kingdoms had prepared for war, and now the moment of decision had arrived. Could love hold against the tides of war? With hearts pounding, Elara and Dorian exchanged a final, fierce look. They knew they were about to face their greatest challenge yet. Together, they would seek a path to peace, even amidst chaos. As the armies clashed, Elara and Dorian pushed forward through the chaos, seeking to meet the leaders of both kingdoms. Every step felt like a battle of its own, but their love drove them onward. Finally, they reached the commanders, breathless and bruised. They pleaded for peace, their voices rising above the clang of swords. Their love became the battle cry for unity against the violence. In a moment of silence, the commanders paused, their hearts touched by the lovers' plight. The sound of swords clashing faded as they listened, recognizing the truth of their love amidst the chaos. Just as a spark of hope ignited, a loyal soldier from the north lunged at Dorian, fueled by hatred and betrayal. Elara's scream shattered the moment as time slowed down around them. Dorian moved instinctively, blocking the attack, but was injured in the process. Elara rushed to his side, fear etched on her face as she cradled him in her arms. Would she lose him forever? In that moment, both armies witnessed the depth of their love, and the tide began to change. The realization hit: if love could endure such pain, perhaps they could too. A murmur spread through the ranks. Elara's voice broke through the silence, pleading for unity. She called for her people to remember what truly mattered. In that moment, the love they shared united not only them, but their kingdoms. As if responding to her call, the soldiers lowered their weapons, bridging gaps that had seemed unbridgeable. Slowly, they began to step forward, driven by the power of love that Elara and Dorian embodied. In an act of solidarity, Elara and Dorian rose together. They turned toward the commanders, their hands intertwined, a symbol of hope that resonated throughout the battlefield. Could love truly conquer hatred? As the sun broke through the clouds, a new dawn emerged. The soldiers realized that fighting would only lead to more loss and heartache, and a newfound understanding began to blossom. In a heartwarming display, soldiers from both kingdoms began to embrace one another, tears of remorse and relief flowing freely. Their hearts were slowly mending, guided by the love of Elara and Dorian. With the battle officially called off, Elara and Dorian stood amidst the crowd, hope shining in their eyes. They had faced insurmountable odds, but their love had triumphed, proving that peace was possible. As the leaders of both kingdoms approached, they expressed their desire to make amends. Elara and Dorian's love had inspired them to find a way to work together for a better future. In the following days, both kingdoms began to heal and rebuild. Elara and Dorian became symbols of hope, serving as ambassadors of peace, working tirelessly to nurture the bonds between their people. Seasons passed, and the love of Elara and Dorian continued to blossom. They held festivals that celebrated their union, signifying the strength that love held against all odds. Years later, as they stood side by side at the altar, Elara and Dorian exchanged vows in a beautiful ceremony. Their love story became legendary, a testament to the power of hope, bravery, and forgiveness. The tale of their love echoed through generations, reminding all that true love could withstand the fiercest storms. Elara and Dorian became a symbol of hope, proving that love was always worth the war. As their story unfolded, the kingdoms flourished, forever changed by the love that broke barriers. They left behind a world where love reigned above all, a legacy of peace that would never fade. And so, the story of Elara and Dorian reminds us that amidst chaos and conflict, love can unite even the most shattered hearts. It teaches us that in every battle, love should be our greatest weapon. Their tale, forever etched in history, serves as a beacon for all lovers who dare to defy the odds. In a world divided, may we all strive for the love that brings us together, just as Elara and Dorian did. As we conclude this epic journey, remember that love can conquer all, and every heart that dares to love passionately is a warrior in its own right. Let us celebrate love as the ultimate triumph over adversity. Thank you for joining us on this romantic journey through time. If you enjoyed this tale of love, war, and destiny, please like, share, and subscribe for more captivating stories. Until next time, remember that love is the greatest adventure of all. May your hearts be filled with passion and your lives be touched by the magic of love. As dawn broke over the battlefield, the air crackled with tension. Soldiers from both kingdoms stood ready, unaware that love had already been put to the ultimate test. In the midst of war, two hearts beat as one, but destiny had other plans. In the royal chambers, Lady Alara glanced at the ornate crest of her family, a symbol of loyalty and sacrifice. Her heart ached for Prince Kalen, the heir of their rival kingdom, whom she had met in secret. Across the kingdom, Prince Kalen received news of an impending battle. His thoughts turned to Alara, and he knew that their love could ignite not just passion, but also profound conflict. That night, under a starry sky, Alara and Kalen met at their secret spot, an ancient oak tree. They shared dreams of peace, a world where their kingdoms could unite instead of fight. But the peace they longed for felt impossibly distant. With every passing day, the drums of war grew louder, and Alara felt the weight of her family's expectations crushing her spirit. Meanwhile, Kalen faced his own demons. Torn between loyalty to his kingdom and his undeniable love for Alara, he pondered the true cost of war and whether it was worth his heart's desire. As the armies advanced, the lovers made a pact. They would fight for their kingdoms, but also for their love, believing that their bond could bridge the divide between their worlds. The day of the battle arrived, and both kingdoms prepared for conflict. Alara, dressed in armor, felt a surge of courage as she thought of Kalen and their shared dream of peace. As swords clashed and arrows flew, their love was tested in the chaos of war. Alara fought valiantly, her heart whispering Kalen's name with each swing of her sword. In the throes of battle, Kalen felt Alara's presence even from afar. He fought with a fury fueled by love and the hope of a future they could share beyond the conflict. But fate is a cruel mistress. A chance encounter on the battlefield brought them face to face, only for them to be forced apart by the realities of war. Would they ever reunite? Alara's heart sank as she was pulled back by her commander, the echoes of Kalen's voice ringing in her ears. She felt as if the very ground beneath her was crumbling. Kalen, witnessing Alara being taken from him, roared in anguish, filled with a mixture of rage and sorrow. Every strike against his enemies felt like a desperate plea for her safety. In the aftermath of the battle, both kingdoms mourned their losses. Alara and Kalen were haunted by the memory of their brief encounter and the love that felt so close yet unattainable. Days turned into weeks, and the war raged on. Alara found herself torn between loyalty to her family and the love she felt for Kalen. Every moment felt like a betrayal. Meanwhile, Kalen plotted a way to reach Alara, believing that if he could just speak to her, they could find a way to end the conflict. His love was a fire that refused to die. A messenger arrived in Alara's camp, carrying news of a secret truce meeting. Hope blossomed in her heart. Could this be the moment where love might triumph over war? Alara decided to attend the meeting, knowing that it could hold the key to their future. The thrill of possibility coursed through her veins as she made her way to the designated location. At the meeting, Kalen and Alara locked eyes across the room, and the world around them faded away. Time stood still as they navigated through the crowd to reach one another. Finally, they stood face to face, the weight of the world lifted for a brief moment. They shared whispers of affection and hopes for a united future, feeling invincible in their love. Yet, their moment of bliss was shattered when guards burst in, alert to their secret meeting. The lovers were forced apart once again, as duty called louder than the heart's desire. Alara was taken back to her kingdom, her heart heavy with despair. She vowed then and there that she would not let their love be extinguished by the flames of war. Kalen returned to his kingdom. A fire ignited within him. He began to rally support from his allies, sharing the vision of peace he and Alara dreamed of together. Months passed, and the war escalated. But so did Elara and Kaelin's resolve. They secretly sent letters, sharing hopes, dreams, and plans to unite their kingdoms against the true enemy, hatred. In their letters, they spoke of a plan to meet again. A secret rendezvous was set where they could finally put their dreams into action and fight for their love against all odds. Finally, the day of their secret meeting arrived. Elara donned a hooded cloak, her heart racing with anticipation as she made her way to the designated place under the old oak tree. When she arrived, Kaelin was already there, his face lighting up at the sight of her. In that moment, nothing else mattered but their love, a love worth fighting for. They communicated their plans, realizing that the love they shared had the potential to unite their kingdoms against the true enemy. But outside forces loomed, ready to tear them apart once more. As they plotted, a shadowy figure lurked nearby, a spy from Elara's kingdom, intent on revealing their forbidden romance. The stakes had never been higher. Just as they began to solidify their plans, a warning reached them. The spy had informed Elara's family of her traitorous meeting, and they were already on their way to capture her. Without hesitation, Kaelin urged Elara to flee, knowing that her safety was paramount. His heart ached at the thought of her being taken from him once again. They ran through the forest, hearts pounding in sync as they evaded the guards. In that moment, nothing else mattered. They were together, and that was enough. Eventually, they found refuge in a hidden cave, breathless and terrified. As they caught their breaths, they exchanged promises of love and loyalty, vowing to fight for their future together. While they sought refuge, the kingdoms clashed in a fierce battle. The war escalated, and the fate of their love hung in the balance as both sides fought for dominance. Inside the cave, Kaelin and Elara listened to the distant sounds of war, fear gripping their hearts. They knew they had to make a choice: fight for their kingdoms or escape together into the unknown. As the battle raged on, a shard of light broke through the darkness of the cave. It symbolized hope, but also a reminder of the world outside that they could no longer ignore. Elara took Kaelin's hands, gazing into his eyes with unwavering determination. They would take a stand together, choosing love over lineage, even if it meant defying their families. With newfound resolve, they exited the cave, ready to face their kingdoms. Together, they would advocate for peace and unite their people against the senseless hatred that fueled the war. As they approached the battlefield, both armies paused, surprised to see their heirs united. Whispers spread like wildfire, and the tension in the air thickened. Elara stepped forward, her voice ringing clear amidst the chaos. She called for an end to the fighting, urging her people to embrace love over hate and to remember their shared humanity. Kaelin joined her, echoing her sentiments. Together, they implored their kingdoms to remember the love they had for each other and to reject the cycle of violence that had claimed too many lives. At first, silence hung in the air, marked only by the distant sounds of conflict. But then a soldier from Elara's army stepped forward, inspired by their courage, and dropped his weapon. That single act sparked a wave of change. One by one, soldiers from both sides began to lower their weapons, a collective understanding dawning upon them. Elara and Kaelin stood together, their hearts swelling as the realization of their love's power began to unfold. They had ignited a spark of hope in the midst of chaos. But their journey is far from over. With the future of their kingdoms at stake, will love be enough to keep them united? Only time will tell as they lead their people towards a brighter tomorrow. Elara stood on the balcony of her castle, gazing into the horizon where the banners of her kingdom waved defiantly. The air was thick with tension, and she could feel the weight of impending war pressing down on her heart. Each flutter of the fabric echoed the turmoil within her, reminding her of the love she yearned to defend. Meanwhile, Kaelin was deep in the heart of his kingdom's war council, surrounded by advisors who urged him to strike first. Yet his mind drifted to Elara, her laughter echoing in his ears, a stark contrast to the grim realities of war. His heart battled between duty and love, leaving him restless and uncertain. The night breathed an uneasy calm as Elara slipped away from her palace, guided only by the light of the moon. She knew the risks, but the thought of Kaelin filled her with resolve. Every step towards him felt like a rebellion against fate, yet she was driven by love's unwavering pull. In the forest clearing, Kaelin awaited, his heart racing at the thought of seeing Elara again. The moment their eyes met, the world around them faded away, leaving only the intoxicating connection of their souls. It was a brief escape from reality, an oasis amidst brewing storms. "We cannot let them tear us apart, Elara," Kaelin murmured, pulling her close. "Our love can unite our kingdoms if we find a way to make them see. We must believe in our destiny." Elara nodded, tears brimming in her eyes, torn between hope and the fear of what lay ahead. Days turned into weeks as the tensions escalated, and both kingdoms prepared for war. Kaelin and Elara met in secret, plotting their next steps, sharing dreams of a united future. They became symbols of hope for their people, their love igniting a flame of resistance against the impending chaos. As preparations for battle grew, Elara's resolve started to waver. Doubts crept into her mind. Was it truly possible to challenge the fate of their kingdoms? She confided in her trusted friend, who reminded her of the power of love in times of darkness, urging her to fight for what was right. Meanwhile, Kaelin confronted the growing whispers among his advisors, who doubted his commitment to Elara. Their words stung, further igniting his determination to prove that love could indeed transcend the boundaries of war. He resolved to rally his forces for peace, not destruction. As dawn broke, Elara received a letter from Kaelin, his words a lifeline amidst the growing despair. He spoke of hope, of a secret meeting with the enemy's leader, urging her to trust in their love and the possibility of peace. Hope flickered within her like a fragile candle. Determined to act, Elara sought an audience with her father, the king. With her heart pounding, she presented her vision of peace instead of war. To her surprise, he listened, his expression torn between tradition and love for his daughter. Would he be strong enough to let go of the past? Back in his war chamber, Kaelin prepared for his meeting with the enemy leader. Feeling the weight of his kingdom on his shoulders, he rehearsed his words, hoping to convince the rival kingdom that their peoples could thrive together. The thought of Elara's smile fueled his courage. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Elara anxiously awaited Kaelin's return. Each tick of the clock echoed her growing dread. What if he failed? What if their love was not enough to bridge the chasm between their kingdoms? Her heart raced with uncertainty. Kaelin returned just as night fell, his expression a mix of hope and disappointment. The meeting had been tense, and while the enemy leader had agreed to consider peace, distrust lingered in the air. Kaelin shared the news with Elara, their hearts heavy with the weight of uncertainty. Determined not to let their efforts go to waste, Elara suggested they host a peace gathering, inviting leaders from both kingdoms to unite. Kaelin agreed, but warned her of the dangers it posed, fearing that not everyone would welcome their vision of unity. Still, hope blossomed amidst the fear. As the day of the peace gathering approached, tensions flared. Supporters of war from both kingdoms plotted against them, spreading rumors and fear. Elara and Kaelin remained steadfast, holding on to their shared dream even as the storm of discontent brewed around them. Elara stood before her people, her heart racing, but her voice steady. "Love can conquer all," she declared, hoping to quell the rising tide of dissent. The crowd's reactions were mixed, some cheering, others jeering, but she refused to back down, believing in the power of her words. Kaelin faced his kingdom as well, urging them to embrace peace instead of war. "What future do we want for our children?" he asked, invoking dreams of unity and hope. The response was electric, and for a moment he felt the tide turning in their favor. On the eve of the gathering, Elara and Kaelin met one last time. Their hands entwined, they shared their fears dreams, and the love that had forged an unbreakable bond between them. With the weight of their kingdoms on their shoulders, they promised to fight for each other and their dream of peace. The day of the peace gathering arrived, and the atmosphere crackled with tension. Leaders from both kingdoms gathered in the Grand Hall, each one wary and uncertain. Elara and Kaelin stood together, their hearts intertwined, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. As discussions began, old grievances resurfaced, and anger filled the air. Elara and Kaelin exchanged glances, silently urging each other to remain calm and focused. They knew this was their chance to shine a light on their love, a beacon amidst the shadows of conflict. Elara stepped forward, a wave of courage washing over her. She spoke passionately, recounting the tale of their love and how it had inspired hope in both kingdoms. The audience listened, some moved to tears, her words weaving a tapestry of unity. Kaelin followed suit, echoing Elara's sentiments, but his voice held a tremor of urgency. If we do not choose peace, we will only doom our future generations to endless conflict. His words resonated, stirring emotions in the hearts of even the staunchest opponents. But as the tide began to turn, a faction of rebels from both kingdoms rose, shouting for war. Elara's heart sank as she realized the fragile peace they had fought for was teetering on the brink. Chaos erupted, and in that moment, she and Kaelin knew they must fight for their love together. In the chaos, Elara and Kaelin made their way to the center of the hall, their hands clasped tightly together. They raised their voices above the clamor, calling for peace once more. Around them, some began to soften, swayed by the strength of their love amidst the turmoil. Elara's heart raced as she felt the weight of the room shift. One by one, people began to echo their sentiments, calling for a chance at peace. The rebels' fervor was met with hesitation, and Elara and Kaelin knew their love was slowly breaking through the barriers of animosity. But just then, the rival kingdom's warlord stepped forward, his eyes filled with fury. "You think your love can change centuries of hatred?" he challenged, his voice booming through the hall. The atmosphere became electric, and Elara's heart sank as she realized the battle was far from over. Kaelin took a deep breath, stepping forward to face the warlord. "Yes, we believe in love's power to heal," he declared, his voice steady. The crowd held its breath, waiting for the warlord's response, the tension palpable as history hung in the balance. The warlord scoffed, but even as he did, he could see the flickering hope in the crowd's eyes. Elara watched as some of his own men began to shift uncomfortably, realizing the futility of war against such a powerful force as love. Hope began to spark in her heart once more. Seeing the tide turn, Elara seized the moment, her voice rising above the noise. "What if we harness this love, this unity, to forge a new future?" she implored, her heart racing as she looked into the eyes of her people, hoping to inspire them to join her vision. The room fell silent, each person reflecting on her words. The warlord's expression hardened, but in that moment, doubt flickered in his eyes. Kaelin stepped up beside Elara, their hands intertwined, a symbol of their unity against the discord. With a deep breath, the warlord finally spoke, his voice less certain than before. "Could it be? Could peace truly be an option?" The crowd murmured, curiosity peaking as Elara and Kaelin felt a glimmer of hope break through the storm clouds of doubt. Elara stepped forward once more, her heart pounding. "Together, we can rewrite our histories," she urged, her passion igniting the room, her love shining brightly through the darkness. This was their chance to change the course of their fates forever. The warlord's eyes softened as he considered her words. He could see the truth in their love and the possibility of a united future. With a reluctant nod, he took a step back, allowing the seeds of peace to take root in the hearts of those gathered. Elara and Kaelin exchanged a knowing look, their hearts buoyed by the moment. Together, they continued to speak about their shared dreams of peace, urging everyone to embrace the courage it would take to forge a new path, hand in hand. As the atmosphere shifted towards acceptance, the crowd began to cheer, voices rising in support of love over war. Alara and Kaelin felt the tide of history turning, their hearts swelling with the hope that had once felt distant and unattainable. But just as they thought victory was at hand, a faction of extremists surged forward, shouting threats and calling for war. Alara's heart dropped, realizing their battle was far from over, and the darkness of conflict still loomed ominously above them. Kaelin stepped forward, his voice booming above the chaos. "This is not the way," he shouted, trying to reach the hearts of those blinded by hatred. Alara joined him, their voices united against the rising tide of anger and fear, determined to quell the storm. As the chaos swirled around them, the warlord stepped forward, his voice commanding. "Enough!" he snapped, silencing the crowd with his authority. He turned to Kaelin and Alara, his eyes searching their faces for the truth behind their love, the crowd holding its breath. Kaelin took a deep breath, meeting the warlord's gaze. "We can build a future that honors our past, one that celebrates our differences rather than letting them divide us." His words resonated, and Alara felt hope blooming anew as she sensed the crowd shifting once more. Just then, an elder from the crowd stepped forward, their voice shaky yet strong. "We have seen enough bloodshed in our lifetimes. Let us not pass this legacy on to our children." The crowd murmured in agreement, the winds of change beginning to blow. With every word spoken, the atmosphere began to shift towards understanding. Alara and Kaelin exchanged a glance filled with determination. It was time to unite their kingdoms, not just in words, but in action. Their love story could be the foundation of a brighter future. As the crowd continued to engage in dialogue, Kaelin proposed a bold idea. "Let us hold a festival of unity, where we celebrate our differences," he declared. The murmurs of support grew louder, igniting a spark of excitement in the air. Alara took Kaelin's hand, feeling the warmth of his support. They both knew this was the turning point they had fought so hard for. With their love as the guiding force, they could pave the way for a new alliance, one that would reshape their destinies. As the crowd buzzed with plans for the festival, Alara and Kaelin felt a renewed sense of purpose. They had turned the tide from conflict to collaboration, but they knew the road ahead would still be fraught with challenges. Their love would be tested relentlessly. With the Festival of Unity announced, the days leading up to it were filled with anticipation and hope. Alara and Kaelin worked tirelessly, determined to ensure that love triumphed over the darkness that had threatened their kingdoms for so long. As the sun set on the eve of the festival, Alara and Kaelin stood hand in hand, their hearts intertwined with hope and determination. They knew the journey ahead would be challenging, but together, they were ready to face whatever fate had in store. Their love story was just beginning.